Tuesday Drive.
Now, of course, with Christmas now done and dusted for another year, and many of you considering where to take a short break over the New Year break, it might be a good time to put the phone or the tablet down, maybe give the streaming services just a little bit of a break, and pick up a book. Do you remember those? It's been a while since I picked up a physical book. Mind you, I do buy my books online and have them on my tablet, so I guess I'm still a bit of a traditionalist. Now, of course, let's face it, there are so many books out there, and I wouldn't know where to start to try to recommend one for you. But I do have in the studio a very, very familiar face, and one that you have seen at an independent local bookstore in Nowra. She's been on Junction Street for many, many years. Many years. She might have to clarify how many years soon. And Gail, welcome to Tuesday Drive.
Thank you, Stephen. It's lovely to be here.
How many years have you worked in this bookstore?
I have just done my 19th Christmas.
Oh, my goodness.
Can you believe it?
No, I can't actually. That is a lot of books over 19 years.
Yeah. Gosh. I couldn't even fathom how many books I've sold or touched in that period of time.
Are you one of these people that buy books and reads them on a tablet, or are you still a traditionalist and you like the paper variety?
Oh, no. It's got to be the paper variety.
Yeah, okay.
I have tried reading on my iPad and it just doesn't feel the same.
No.
But I have so many books open, the opportunity for me to read, that I don't need a device.
True.
So, yeah.
And I think it's something about the smell of the
yes.
Isn't it? Is that just
absolutely,
weird? Do you reckon?
Absolutely. Just the smell of a book, the feel of a book.
Yeah.
And don't talk about those books with those textured covers, because I caress them. I can be quite embarrassing around books.
Does your husband just sort of put you aside when you've got friends and guests and neighbours over? So just leave her. She's just filling the books at the moment. She'll be out soon.
I don't know that that's actually happened at home, but it definitely happens at work.
Yeah, bookstore.
Yes, definitely.
Now, 19 years you've been working in a bookstore, Gail, so of course we've got a lot of people that are travelling to the Shoalhaven and the South Coast. They might be going to places where there is no mobile phone reception. They might not have power, they're at a campsite, but they can still take a book and they can still read a book. Now, we're going to go through a couple of categories this afternoon, and I thought let's begin with a little bit of action and adventure.
Okay, now, when I sat down and thought about this, I haven't read as many of those as I thought I had this year. But the one that came to mind was a book that actually caused me to read other books, and this is a bit of an interesting story. Its name was Code Name Hélène. It's a novel about Nancy Wake, the white mouse, who was very instrumental in the French resistance in the Second World War. So as you could imagine, it was full of all sorts of adventures. But I got to the end of that book and I just loved it. But I'm thinking, I know nothing about this woman. Why do I not know about this Australian heroine?
Oh,
exactly.
wow.
She's an Australian.
Wow.
So at the end of her book, she mentioned her biography, so I read it. Now, I don't read biographies as a general rule, but I loved it, like just to know that what I read in this novel was actually what happened in her real life. So, yeah.
So just to clarify, so it is classified as an action and adventure.
Well, for me, that is the closest I came to an action adventure. Yep. Normally, I read a Tony Park every year, which is full-on blood and guts adventure.
Oh, nice.
But I missed him this year. Yeah.
Now, so what did you say it was called again?
Code Name Hélène.
Hélène, okay.
Hélène, yeah.
Right, we'll have to put that one down.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it.
Now, one thing I didn't ask you before I preempted the interview this afternoon is I thought we'd give it a number of bookworms out of 5. So we have to. It's like rating a movie with like 4 to 5 stars. I thought, how many bookworms would you give Code Name Hélène, you reckon?
I'm going to give her 4.
4. That's a good start, Gail. That's a really good start.
It was a pretty good book. Yeah, it was one that I loved.
Yep.
It's not in my top 4, but I did love it.
All right, we're going to come back to your top 4.
We will. Yes.
Fantasy. I know you like your fantasy books.
Well, this is an interesting thing too, I do. But when I started looking over my list of books that I've read, I have actually not read any adult fantasies. How's this? 2 things you asked me to start off with.
I know.
But I've read quite a few children's fantasy.
Well, that still works.
So, yes, yeah. So the first one that I really loved was the Strangeworlds travel agency.
Oh, what's that about?
Well,
A travel agent?
it's about a travel agent, yes.
Makes sense.
But you don't go in and book yourself on a ship or a flight or a train. You jump into a suitcase.
Oh, okay.
And you don't go to another country.
Right.
You go to another world.
I'm liking this travel agency.
Oh, seriously, it was so good. I just loved it. And, of course, you had that adventure and your mystery along the way. And, yeah, it was really good.
So you're saying it's a kid's fantasy.
Yes.
I mean, would I be right to saying it's like young adults, or is it actually children?
No, it's actually in the 9 to 12 year
Oh,
range.
right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, young kids can read some pretty
Yeah,
sophisticated
absolutely.
stuff. Yeah. And that is a fairly sophisticated thing. But the idea of jumping in a suitcase, I mean, hey, don't you want to go home and see what happens when you jump in yours?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because every time that Bill and I head down to Tassie, it's usually my mum and dad will say, can we jump in your suitcase and come down? It's like, yeah, of course, guys, no problems. Not sure how the airline will feel about that, but yeah, we'll try. We'll fit you in. So, no, I'm with it. So, all right, so how many bookworms? Ooh, I feel like I need like a timpani drum roll.
I'm thinking a 3.5.
That's not bad. So 3.5 bookworms.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that poor half a bookworm.
Well, it's not quite up there with Codename Hélène, but it's not down there with the bottom. So.
And so what was that one called again?
That was the Strangeworlds Travel Agency.
Strangeworlds Travel Agency. Right, I'm writing that one down as well. Now, I'm going to move on to romance, because that's actually one of is my mother's favourite category. She's always been a huge Mills and Boon fan. Are you a Mills and Boon fan?
I'm not. If I read a romance book, it's really a book with a romantic thread going through it. I like to have a bit of substance to my story.
Are you saying Mills and Boon has no substance, Gail?
Well, maybe we shouldn't go there. I don't want to upset the audience. I do apologise if you're a Mills and Boon reader. Please keep reading. It's a book.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Don't stop reading.
Don't stop reading. So I've read quite a few books this year that have a romantic thread through it. I'm going to mention 2, and they're both going to get a 4.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll start that.
Yeah.
The first one is The Champagne War by Fiona McIntosh. Now, Fiona's one of my favourite Australian authors, and she often writes books that are around World War II, and this is actually one of those. And it's actually set in a winery in a vineyard, whatever you want to, a vineyard in France.
Lovely.
And
lovely.
a lot of this story is set down underneath in the caves where they store their champagne bottles of their champagne as their whatever the word is.
Fermenting.
Use that word. So I love this book.
And so you said it's set in France?
Yes, it is.
So I dare say it is the real champagne.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Yeah. Yes,
Yes.
She does call it champagne, so yeah. And her husband, of course, went off to the war, and so then this story travelled on through her love of him and all that. But what I loved about it is I could smell the dustiness of the caves. And when she talked about drinking this champagne, I had the bubbles popping up my nose.
Wow.
Like I was there. I felt what she was saying. And I love an author who can do that. So, and she does
you
it.
have just hit the nail on the head there. Like you just said, an author where you can actually feel what they're writing about. Like, yeah. That's superb.
Yeah, it is. And not all authors can do that. And not all authors are actually setting out to do that either. They're just telling you a story. But this one particularly did.
So that's The Champagne War by Fiona McIntosh.
Yes. And the other one is The Cake Maker's Wish by Josephine Moon. Now, it's set, and I'm going to forget where it was set, but it was a Tasmanian girl who went over to somewhere in England, and I really should have written that down, because there's a town there that was starting to fall apart, and they wanted to rebuild the town. So they invited people from all over the world to come and to put something into their town. So she went over. I think her husband had died and she was at a loose end. So she went over with her child and she started a bakery. So, yeah, so it was a really lovely story. And, of course, you've got the two parts of the town. One wanted them there and one didn't. So,
okay,
you know,
right, yep.
there's but there's, of course, that romantic thread
Which I think's
that
nice.
ran through. Yeah.
Okay, so that was The Cake Maker's Wish by Josephine
Moon.
And that's 4 bookworms.
Yes, I think so.
4,
yes.
I like it. Now, as we don't have much time left, so we'll have to sort of quickly get through the next category. Now, a popular biography or autobiography.
Okay, well, I've already mentioned the Nancy Wake that I read.
Yep.
And I also told you that I don't generally read a lot, but this year I've read 3 bios, which is huge for me. And probably the one I might talk about that I really enjoyed was Mary's Last Dance.
Okay.
Now, Mary is Lu Kun-sin's wife from Mao's Last Dancer fame.
Oh.
So she wrote her side of the story because she was a dancer, a famous dancer like he was.
Wow.
She was up there with him. But they had a child who needed extra help. She was deaf, and Mary needed to devote her life to her daughter, so she just gave up dancing.
Oh.
And so she's just been in the background for all these years, and Lee just said, your story's important, let's write it. So she did.
Now, so who was it about again?
Mary,
Yep.
who is Lee Kun-sin's wife.
Oh, that's her name. Her name is just Mary. Yeah.
Mary Lee is actually her name.
Oh,
L-I
right. Yep,
is her last name, but Chinese people use their last name first. So, yeah.
That would be fascinating.
Look, it was.
And the fact that the husband encouraged it too is beautiful.
Yes, and the daughter in the end.
Wow.
So, no, it was a really good read. And, yeah, I enjoyed it. And I would probably give it 3.5 worms.
That's good. That's good. Now, just quickly, I'm keen to know, in the bookstore, have there been any real popular cookbooks that people have... only because, obviously, 2020 has been a bit of an odd year, and I know sourdough was very, very popular with a lot of people across the nation. I'm curious to know, what was a popular cookbook that you found?
Well, we actually had 3 because I looked over and had a look to see, and the 3 that stood out was Flavour by Ottolenghi.
Yeah.
So he always sells quite well. And Jamie Oliver's 7 Ways. Now,
yes.
That's really cool because he shows you how to take one ingredient and cook 7 dishes with it.
Yep.
So, we all like to be frugal if we can.
Absolutely.
And the other one was Donna Hayes' Everyday Fresh Meals in Minutes. They've really done quite well.
Okay, so we had Flavour, we had 7 Ways, and Everyday Fresh Meals.
Yeah.
Yep, that's from Donna Hayes. She is a great author, of course, and a cook. And look, just very, very quickly, you've got 4 favourites.
I do.
For 2020. What are they?
Okay, my favourite 4. The first one is The Lost Love Song by Minnie Darke.
Yes.
And that has a beautiful romantic thread going through it again. So, and it was quite an emotional read because the composer of this piece of music actually died.
Oh.
But her music kept living on. And it just kept moving on and moving on. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil the book, but it was fabulous.
So that's number 1.
Yes.
Number 2.
The second one was Good Turn, which is the 3rd book in the Cormac Riley series by Dervla McTiernan. She's an Irish author, and that's actually a crime book, and I just loved it. Really, really, really enjoyed it.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Where the Crawdads Sing. Now, if you could see me, my hands are over my heart because that book just makes me go every time.
Where the Poor Dads?
Crawdads.
Poor.
Crawdads.
Oh, okay.
Crawdads.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Siri. Siri just got very excited then. I think she thought we were mentioning her name there. Sorry, Siri, about that. Now, who's that by? Where the Crawdads Sing?
That's by Delia Owens. And that's a book that so many people had spoken about. And I thought, well, I'm just going to have to read this book. So
and you loved it.
And I did.
You loved it.
I really, really loved it.
And the final one?
Oh, my gosh, this book.
Yes, yes.
This book is called The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth.
Okay.
I took it home on the Friday night. Read a couple of chapters. When I got home from work at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, I thought I'd sit down and read a few more. At 6 o'clock, I put the book down.
Finished.
I just loved it. It was
That's a sign of another good author, Gail.
Oh, seriously. She is one of my favourites.
Yes.
And I think this is her best book.
Great.
Yeah, I love Sally. She's wonderful. But this book, oh my goodness.
So we've got The Lost Love Song, we've got Good Turn, we've got Where the Crawdads Sing, and The Good Sister.
The Good Sister, yep.
Gail, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon.
Oh, thank you
It's
for
been
having
lovely
me.
to have a chat with you. And hopefully we're going to try and fit a little bit in very soon of The Never-Ending Story, which I knew you really wanted us to play this afternoon. And look, and have a wonderful New Year.
Yes, you too. All the best.
It is time to head to our sponsors.
UUU FM.
This is Tuesday Drive.